sitting across me. And you're going to hear what he has to do, what he has been, where he's going, and much more of that. Now, what do African leaders need to do to improve on their leadership skills is one of the things that we're going to discuss in today's program. For centuries, Africa has had traditional leaders, religious leaders, kings and queens, but the coming in of Western civilization came with democracy and so many other imports that the continent never had. Remember that. Corruption, nepotism, and so many others are now the order of the day on the continent, as you're all aware. But the question is, can new methods of training improve the mindsets? Can new methods of training improve the mindsets of its leaders to be better leaders of tomorrow? That's one of the things that I hope me and my guests will try and answer in today's program. With me in the studio is Mr. Onyi Onyando, a global leadership speaker, futuristic and cooperation trainer. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah. You've had the intro there. You're aware, as an African, there are so many African problems. So you're saying, if you live in the West and you see what goes on in Africa, and you go there for a visit and you see what goes on in Africa, obviously, the first thing that comes in your mind is the leadership problem in terms of the way things are achieved there, in terms of the way things are done over there. Now, the key question here is, how do we change the mindset? Okay, first and foremost, we need to know something about you before we go into these details. How did you manage to enter the field of being a professional, promotional speaker, and B, into is it called mind training, mindset training and all that? How did you manage to go through to this?
Yeah, so thank you, Steve. So a bit about myself. So as you mentioned, Oni Enyado, global leadership speaker, corporate trainer and futurist. So let's go back to the beginning, the beginning. So I was born and raised in Hackney, East London. So I know we've got a global audience. So London, of course, divided into North London, South London, East London and West London. So born and raised in Hackney, East London to a 2.4 family, my mom, my dad and my sister. Unfortunately, at a very early age, my dad left. So for the majority of my childhood years and my teenage years, it was just me, my mum and my sister. Thankfully, on Father's Day, maybe about 10 years ago, 11 years ago, me and my dad reunited after 25 plus years.
Whoa.
The most emotional time of my life thus far. I mean, not seeing my dad for 25 years, and it was on Father's Day as well. I cried, man, I cried. I really, really cried. So coming from a strict Nigerian background, my mum, the best mum in the world. I went to a good school, a secondary school in North London. Then I went to Southgate College, studied business study. Of course, I don't know what I want to become, but coming from a Nigerian background, I had to be a doctor, lawyer, pharmacist, the three traditional African job careers.
They keep pushing us to that. You have to do that. You have to do that.
Then I went to Middlesex University to study management and marketing. And of course, that was me. That was my awakening. That was me coming alive as a young man. Because obviously, growing up in Hackney, I had the majority of black friends, quote unquote. But at university, I had white friends, Indian friends, Chinese friends, etc., etc. Unfortunately, I say unfortunately hindsight, but when I got to the second year, I dropped out. Because at that time, I was the only one out of my friends at university. So I began living a particular life called the street life. Now, it wasn't really gangs. It was just young men on the streets of East London up to no good. Unfortunately, that 10-year period, 6 of my friends got murdered.
I read about that.
I nearly got shot dead, and I went to prison twice. So you can imagine, as a Nigerian, your son's going to prison. That was a big shame for my family. So fast forward now, the only job I saw myself doing, I always wanted to become a counsellor working in North London, as in helping people, listening to people. So in 2010, my first mentor, my first pastor, he said, whatever you do in life, network. I was like, okay, wow, let me go online and look for network counseling events. So I found out about life coaching, done a 2-day program. Of course, you have to pay to be part of the program. I think it was £4,000.
Whoa!
Yeah, at the time I didn't have.
At that time, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, it was a lot of money. Yeah. At that time I didn't have £40 to my name, so I took a step of faith. Opened up my first business called B1 Coaching, and began doing monthly life coaching workshops in Stratford, East London, called Your Time Is Now.
Okay.
At that time I was very heavy on Facebook, and thousands of people follow me, and then every time I would do the event, like 40 people would register. So, oh my gosh, that's £10, that's £400. Oh my God, thank you, Lord, thank you, Lord.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, but no one came for like 3-4 months. But I was with a dog with a bone. I just found out that, hold on, there's that famous song from Labi Safi, there's something inside so strong. So I knew there was something inside of me so strong.
Yeah.
So and then I entered the education space, began doing schools, colleges, universities, partnered with Bartley's Life Skills, for 3 years, delivered a life skills program across the UK to 10,000 plus students over a 3-year period. That was fantastic. Well, 10,000, it must be more than about 20,000 to be honest. 2018, I received a revelation that a shift was coming.
Okay.
Of course, I didn't know it would be COVID, or did I know? Of course, I didn't know it would be COVID, but I knew a shift would be coming, so I pivoted my business model to be good, doing more corporate stuff and more, serving leadership on a global platform.
Okay.
And then from then, since 2018, really, I've been working across countries such as Norway. I recently came back from Egypt. Worked with clients from Saudi and across Nigeria and America and Africa too. And then so from my life story and my legacy is titled From Detention to Distinction.
Yeah.
And that's me in a nutshell, a global leadership speaker. So I speak at different conferences, events around the world. A corporate trainer, I coach and I train leaders on all things learning development. And as a futurist, I coach and I train leaders how to be future ready, because I always share with my audience and my clients the future you're not thinking about has already started.
Now, that's a very good introduction.
Thank you.
The thing is, it has its ups and downs. It has its rise and it has its falls. And and when I look at it, it's like you're going to different cultures, you're going to different religions. You're going to, for example, the Saudis have got their religion. The Canadians have got a different religion. And then there are individuals who are also raised differently. Now, when you're going into coaching and you're giving them the life type of coaching, do you have some kind of definition what you are going to say in Saudi Arabia and what you're going to say in Canada or even in Africa? Because we got things like cultures. We got things like tribes. We got things which define us and our identity. And that's where the most difficult thing is, to get the mindset of an African to move away from his culture and address and become a modern man or modern woman who has education, who has a degree and everything. And you're training him to be an individual, but you have to, you first have to observe the cultures and so on, read about them and all that, so that when you start talking, you know that the sensitivity of that.
Yes and no, So for example, when I had a large-scale client from Saudi Arabia, it's not until I was speaking to another trainer when he told me that, because I didn't know myself, that Saudi women don't regularly shake hands with each other compared to women in the West. So I remember I met my first client, funny enough, it was two, one from Nigeria, a male, and a female from Saudi. So once I knew about the handshake, I didn't. But then I've had another Saudi woman who's hugged me, who's shook my hand. So you observe and you understand. But my message of cutting edge distinction transcends races, faces, and different places. So my message of my message of cutting edge leadership is universal, it's holistic, to a Muslim, to a Christian, to an atheist, to a man, to a woman, because everyone, regardless of your faith or belief or whatever, your culture, you want to know how to become a better leader, and that's what I bring to the table. Yeah,
but this is what I'm trying to say. To become a better leader, you need to first of all understand your people. Isn't that it? You understand your people.
Well, I think understand yourself first.
Yeah, yourself
first. Yeah, okay. Yeah. You have to, because the big question is, one, what is leadership in 2025 in the 21st century? One, what is leadership, which I give a solution to, and two, how can I become a better leader?
Yeah,
that's the two main questions that I face across cultures, across continents, across cities.
So you don't really need to address what culture means and what does it say.
Yes and no, but remember, the more important thing is the culture of the organization.
All right.
Because if the culture of the organization, you can be a religious fanatic or freak or zealot, but if there's no if there's no culture of modern day culture and organization, forget about it. Your people are not learning, they're going to be crying, they're going to be moaning, they're going to be under pressure. So I think culture of a nation is important, but culture of an organization is important too.
Okay, now look at Africa. As I started, that's one of the areas that I'm more concerned with. When I look at Africa, I look at changes. I look at, like I said in my intro, we were introduced to democracy. We had our cultural leaders. We had kings, we had queens, we had all that, and we were going through the changes that we had. Now suddenly, these leaders have come up, elected, they are not democratic, they are corrupt, there's nepotism, there's everything which is there. Now tomorrow you jump in as a motivational speaker and you tell them the qualities that one needs to. Don't you find that it will be like hitting against a wall? You are saying something which they might not really be that interested in if you've talked to Africans about these issues.
Yes and no, but then remember, it's about quote unquote playing a game.
Okay.
I can't teach a fish to swim, but I can definitely feed a fish what it wants to eat.
Oh,
in that sense. Then that's my job done.
Okay.
In that sense, so I can't teach you how to swim, but I can feed you what you want to eat.
Yeah. Okay, it's interesting. That's an interesting. I can't teach a fish how to. No. It has to learn itself how to swim.
100%. But I can feed you what you want to eat. Yeah, and you're not going to spit it out.
How about AI and technology and modern technology? Because you've addressed that issue as well.
Yes.
Africa doesn't have a lot of resources in terms of educational resources as far as AI is concerned. It's a new thing which is just jumping in. And obviously, they have educated people who can address that. But it's not something that has come in, that is now on Africa's radar. How do you introduce that? How do you introduce AR and technology, a new technology, where there isn't any new technology?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, I came back from Egypt speaking at a conference, beautiful, and I was pleasantly surprised how much startups are there that literally are all about tech based anyway.
Yeah.
So the understanding of AI in, I haven't been to Nigeria yet to speak, but I'm coming there soon.
Yeah.
AI is again transcends races and faces in different places, so it's being embraced at a high rate. I mean, Nigeria itself has many organized companies that have scaled up.
Yeah,
I think they've got some of the biggest scale up companies that have gone to unicorn level, etc., etc. So I think AI is being embraced on a large scale, but I think it's just that sometimes the Western propaganda is not showing that. And we're thinking, well, Africa as a continent, but what's happening? But things are moving in Ghana. They're embracing AI on another level.
Yeah.
Parts of Nigeria, they're embracing it on another level. It's one thing we can say about African young people, young entrepreneurs, is that they're very hardworking, they're very smart working, and they're very driven.
Yeah.
So even if they haven't got AI, they will try and leverage AI. If they have got AI, they will leverage it even more to add more value.
Now, the teachings of senior management teams, the guidelines on what to follow, what managers, what is involved, and so on. Because I saw that as part of what you teach, as part of what you talk about in terms of what managers need to know and what managers need to teach to be in order to show examples to the others. What does it involve? What does it involve?
So that's a very good question. So really, I actually break down on what leadership is. So I really refine and define the 3 pillars of the 21st century yardstick leader. So the first pillar is, so in 2015 I said that leadership isn't about age, but rather leadership is about influence, impact, and inspiration. So it's not how old you are or how young you are or how long you've been in management, how long you've been in your organization, but rather it's about the 3 I's: influence, impact, and inspiration. First, how you can influence, impact, and inspire yourself, then your team. That's the first pillar. The second pillar is distinction in leadership isn't a mindset. Distinction in leadership is a state of mind. So distinction in leadership isn't a mindset.
Okay.
It's a state of mind. So the mindset, and I'll give an example, from my culture, particularly my mother, the best mum in the world, her generation was, go to school, go to college, go to university, get married, get a 25-year mortgage, live happily ever after. That's a mindset. In fact, that was the whole world, really, particularly before COVID, but particularly after COVID, that changed. So now you have to have a state of mind. And that state of mind is that ability to see opportunities and possibilities in the midst of obstacles and problems.
Yeah.
I say that again. That ability, that state of mind to have see the opportunities and possibilities in the midst of obstacles and problems. It's no coincidence, Steve, that 75% of the world economic skills of the future have to do with thinking. So as a manager, as a leader in any position, number one is it's about influence, impact, and inspiration. Number two, you have to switch intentionally and strategically, that's where I come in, from a mindset to a state of mind. Because, you know, as a great man said, what was relevant 10 years ago might not be relevant now.
Yeah.
And the third pillar is distinction in leadership isn't about me, myself, and I. Distinction in leadership is about him, her, and us.
Wow.
Distinction, and it's all my intellectual property. By the way, it's not ChatGPT. Distinction in leadership isn't about me, myself, and I.
Yeah.
Distinction in leadership is about him, her, and us. So the yardstick 21st century manager stroke leader in an organization, in a business, in governance, in politics, has to be selfless. They have to be legacy minded.
Yeah.
Steve, when famous people die, we say he left a legacy or she left a legacy. But the essence of my message of cutting edge distinction is that you don't have to be dead to leave a legacy.
Yeah. You have to do it when you're alive.
Standard.
I like the way you admire your mother. You everything that you you put her at the forefront. My mother, you know. So it's quite interesting. She probably had the biggest influence on your life.
Right now, I've seen her struggle. Yeah. I've seen her. I mean, can you imagine as a Nigerian, your son going to jail twice? Oh, come on now. So So yeah. So you have to be legacy minded. You don't have to be dead. So even if you're a 21-year-old leader in an organization, you have to be legacy minded. If you're a 65-year-old leader in an organization, you have to be legacy minded. You can't be self-centered, and we know that's the issue with many leaders, many presidents and prime ministers, governors, leaders in political across Africa, is they're very selfish. But in the 21st century, leader has to be selfless. It's not just me, gimme. And unfortunately, there has to be maybe a generational shift before it becomes that selflessness.
I know it's a very interesting one. Just before we came on air, I told you about what is going on, and we had a small discussion about the pastors. And I wanted to know, because I've come across this so many times, and I don't know whether you come across it. For example, Nigeria has so many churches. A friend of mine was telling me that you can come across one street and see more than 20 churches. And Ghana has got them. Uganda has, all the other African countries have religion now, Christian faith, and even Muslims. There are so many mosques that are springing up on the African continent. Now, the biggest problem about this is that the pastors have a different mindset, which, of course, guiding you towards God and faith and all that. But then at the same time, there's a money factor which has moved in. Some of the African pastors are extremely wealthy. And if you're going to change the mindset of a pastor, because I've seen it before, somebody turned up at a church in Uganda and was giving a talk on something that is, in fact, was involving embettering people themselves so that they could be better people, they could be better this and that.
Yes.
And part of it was, think about yourself, as you are saying. First develop yourself. First buy things for yourself. First make money. First do this so that it's you first. You look after yourself, then your family, then something like that. Then you start looking at outside. And somebody asked him a question about the church, and he said, well, the church is not yourself. The church is out of yourself. Has your wife had food to eat tonight? Have your children are they dressed well? Or things like that.
Yes.
So he started sort of giving a kind of a selfie thing from what you've just said, so that the pastor realized people come to church, they give their what are they called? Tariffs? Or,
Tithes.
Tithes, and all that. So he was going to lose some of that money because this money now saying, think about yourself. In the end, they had to get him off the stage. So that's what I'm saying. Well, how do you get to change your mindset that would devolve the people in the way you are saying, because it begins with the leaders. If you can't change the mindset of a pastor to think in terms of, if these people are better and they got more money, then I'll earn more money. That's how it should have been. But he was looking at it as if he's going to lose out. Can you fight that?
Well, I mean, it's not my job to fight it. I think for me, if we're talking about, you know, the essence of Christianity is that you know God for yourself, you know the Word for yourself through the inspiration of the Holy Spirit. Unfortunately, the modern day church has become very mammon, money based. And at the end of the day, Judgment Day, we will have to give an account in front of Almighty God. But for me, it's not my job to change any pastor. Know the Word, you know it for yourself. Ask the Holy Spirit for revelation, insight, and take it from there. But I just think, you know, I mean, the Bible says, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. So it's down to the individual to sit down, study, pray, and gather that understanding. Unfortunately, it's not happening. But then on the flip side, you know, many people have been raised up from the church. Many churches are doing great missionary work. I know. So it's a balance, you know.
But it's in a way I'm saying you've never been invited to churches to give this kind of.
Many you have. I've never had no bad experience in that sense because, you know, I'm very open. And I'm sharing, particularly from the Word of God, on my own experiences based upon leadership. So I'm not there to play or So I've been invited to a number of churches.
Because they had to get him off the stage. What about when it involves? I don't know whether this is different. If it's involving parents, for example, and how they're raising their children, and so I know this is something to do with maybe the social workers will think in terms of that, or somebody who's been raised to, but. The kind of situation where a family, for example, a mother and a father could come in and you say, okay, in order to better yourself, this is what you have to do, so that it is not only left on the cooperative companies and leaders and so on, because everything begins in a home. Do you 100%. Do this kind of do you do this kind of teaching as well to parents? I did run a program for parents and for children, and one of the things I found out, it was a lack of communication. So for example, when I was growing up, literally by 6 o'clock, no later, I had to be at home. So 3:30, because my school I lived in Hackney, as I said, East London. My school was in North London. It would take about an hour and a half to get home.
So by 6 o'clock I had to be in. Now you're seeing children 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock eating chicken and chips on the road. And you're thinking, where's your parents? But then the parents are working, they're working hard to pay their bills. But then who's raising your children? The streets are raising your children. So I mean, I would sit down and talk about the 3 C's within a family. I talk about communication. I talk about clarity, and I talk about conviction. So communication. What's the issue? Speak openly, speak freely without condemnation. Clarity, speak with understanding and purpose. And then commit to it. Commit to that. Okay, I've coached many families where it's interesting, Steve, they have no family time. So we now had to come together and say, okay.
They have no family time.
2 hours every week, sit down together as a family and watch TV. Switch your phones off or put it in another room and sit down. And some of the results was amazing, where mother and daughter would open up to each other. They're laughing like never before. They're eating like they're eating together as a family. So things like that, as I said, my generation, and me in particular, had to be in at 6 o'clock sharp. Now it's like, eating chicken and chips. And you're thinking, hold on a minute, by the time you get home, it's late, you're full up, you're not going to communicate with your family, and you go to sleep,
go straight to
and
bed,
and you wake up in the next day.
Now, is there anywhere in your program where there is a gender kind of training as well? Because I was going through it and I didn't see anything that this is particularly meant to be for mothers or for women, and this is particularly meant to be for men. Because as you're aware, the gender issue is something that is really disturbing all of us in society. We all have issues. You may have a wife at home, but then if you don't get through the stages of understanding her, and she doesn't get through the stages of understanding you, probably that home won't be no more. You may think you're handling this situation, but it becomes hard. But then if there is a program where you've been a counselor before, you've counseled people. So you design a program which you say, this is particularly for women, and this is particularly for men. But I've seen churches do that sometimes. But does it exist among your programs and your speeches?
Not in particular, but I mean, if there's demand for it, of course, something I can create and then I can roll it out. But at this time, no, it's nothing that's really. There's not really been a demand for it yet in that sense.
Because it's. But is there any way you're thinking about doing anything of that nature? Because I have a feeling that if that exists, I think people would maybe go heaven on earth, men would try to find it and go through it, or even women trying to find, because understand each other, because it's one of the most difficult things in life that exists, regardless of who you are.
Yes.
You're going through all that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something I should be interested in. Yeah, why not? Yeah.
So anyway, something else that has also come up, again, depending on how you are raised, and which part of the world you are in. The Chinese have a different approach to some of the things that exist. The Saudis have got something different. And certainly, wherever the cultures like we are, these are something that is always going to be there.
Yes.
Now, also to design something that is particularly for particular areas of Africa, for example. I said, look, the Baganda, the Igbos, I know there's things which are meant to be overall for all of us. But if there is something that can be designed, particularly basing even on the cultures, so that a father who is from a certain culture comes up with something and said, oh, I'm reading about this and I think this would work for me in Africa. Is there such a program that exists? Because from what I can see, whatever you have, most of it is based on what is here, in the UK. One can go through the English language, this, that, but it's never based on particular places, cultures, and so on. I know you have just said that.
Yeah.
You can't teach a fish how to, to swim. But somewhere along the way, when we haven't moved into Western democracy, can there be something that is particularly designed for the Igbos, for example, or for the Yoruba or something? But you are looking at how the African cultures operate and say, can we have something that this particular one will really work among the,
Yeah, I'm sure there is. Yeah, I'm sure there would be demand for it, and I'm sure there is something maybe in Nigeria or Uganda or Kenya or South Africa.
Yeah.
In that sense, yeah.
But you don't think in terms of creating something of that nature?
No, but I mean, for the fact you've mentioned it, then obviously I'll go back and think about it in that sense as I go about my global travels.
Yeah. Now, something about your past that you have said, and what you've gone through, and the change of direction that really happened when you lost your friends, when you see the way you have seen the world is going. Does that mean at some point you're given an opportunity to even talk to people within the government or within the education department, things that we've just talked about? Say, for example, children not being at home until maybe 8 o'clock, they're busy eating chips and so on. Is there something which should come in through education, through the Ministry of Education, for example, Department of Education here in the UK?
Yeah.
Having been raised here, having seen things which are happening here, that can help in terms of schools in Hackney, schools in other parts of London.
I think one of the best things that I was ever involved in was the life skills program. I think that was a revolution itself in education, because, as I said, it took me as far as Newcastle and down south as Portsmouth for international guests. That's as far up as North England and then Southern England as well. And that was powerful because we covered confidence building, financial literacy, employability skills. And that was a revolution itself, because these are young children in parts of London and parts of England that would never, ever, ever, ever have an opportunity to speak up, to understand about money, to understand about themselves. So yeah, I think that was there. And I've spoken at the House of Commons before. I haven't spoken at number 10 yet, so
you're on your way there.
I'm definitely on my way there.
Companies, so many black people and business people, I should say, have opened up small companies, small businesses in and around London. Indians have got shops and so on and so on. They are coming up, but the employability, as you're saying, with that sort of format, training the would-be leaders of those companies and those who are coming within those companies need these policies. How do you go about trying to get these small companies to listen to your formula? Because it's interesting, I've seen it around, but then at the same time, it's not something that has appeared so much within the public domain. And that's what I wonder. When I was going through it, and I was thinking, this is quite great. But how come it's not in the public domain somewhere with the big shots coming up, bringing money into your pockets and say, listen, you need a Mercedes Benz for this, and you need to, this information is very good, we need to adapt it.
I think it's more so on my side. It's what am I doing? Like for now I'm on a global TV station. I'm pretty sure people are watching and thinking, oh, I like this guy. Let's hold hands. Let's partner. Let's work together to, you know, make impact across Europe, Africa, the Middle East, etc. So it's not based upon them. It's based on what am I doing. So I understand about positioning. Remember, I said in 2018 I pivoted. But if I didn't pivot in 2018, I wouldn't be here now. And I'm 110% million percent certain that this is going to open up new opportunities for me to make even more impact. So for me, it's, you know, I talk about the 3 levels of sight: hindsight, foresight, and farsight. Okay. Again, if we go back in time, back to the future in 2018, if I didn't pivot, I wouldn't be here now. So now we're in 2025. I can guarantee you this opportunity now will open up multiple open doors and new levels to make even more impact from 2025 up to 2040 and beyond. So I'm in a good space.
Okay. Now, what are some of the problems then, when you encounter with any of the major problems you've encountered before? I know it's sometimes people may get things and they said, I wouldn't talk about that, but it's something which gives us some kind of work experience into your world in a way. Somebody came and punched you and said, you said something wrong, something like that, or somebody came and said, look, young man, I think, are you building or you're destroying? Is there anything that we can learn about the problems? I know there's too much positiveness that we have been talking about, but you know, in life there is always got to be an ups and down. What is there that you can remember? And to
cash flow, of course. The number one, cash is king.
That's something that I thought you were going to say.
Cash flow. I think it's you know, as a business person, wherever level you find yourself, is about getting yourself out there. It takes a lot for you to go to a networking event or 10, 15 networking events in a month and get positive results out of it. So for me, cash flow, networking, brand positioning, brand awareness, these are some of the things that I found over the number of years that people are quote unquote suffering from. But one of the things that, you know, you have to take that step of faith. You have to go out there. Sometimes no name is going to hold your hand.
Basically, we should say cash flow is the biggest problem you have.
I would say cash flow and brand positioning. Position yourself to the right market.
Now, I've seen this, and it's sort of when I saw the quote that you said you don't seem to have. You said that I won't quote anyone. Rather, I'll always be quoted. In other words, to me, it gave me a kind of feeling that you're a kind of person who maybe never had role models as you were growing up, compared from what you said. For someone out there you to say, oh, Nelson Mandela or Kwame Nkrumah or somebody that you felt that I want to be like that guy. But when you said, look, I'm fighting so much to be quoted, is there somebody who has ever been your role model somewhere in life that you can really be out? Okay, you might not quote him, as you said, you don't want that, but be there and say, look, I admire that Steve Molindro. I think I got to be like that guy when I reach a certain level. Well, I achieve what I've achieved with that level. Is there anybody out there?
Definitely, and I mean, and the reason why I said that quote, because when I first entered the industry, I promised myself 2 things. One, I would never call myself a motivational speaker. Nothing wrong with that, but at the time there were so many motivational speakers saying the same thing. And 2, I would never quote anyone, but rather I'll always be quoted. Meaning, my insights, my thought leadership, my distinction, which I share across the world on platforms like this, will be the 3 Fs. It will be fertile, it will be forward thinking, and it will be fresh. I promise myself that the words I speak will be fresh, will be forward speaking, and will be fertile. You won't hear this anywhere else around the world. Never.
I know. I'm hearing it for the first
time.
I'll probably start quoting that as well.
It's fresh. It's forward thinking, and it's fertile. And now, you know, I say with all humility, I've been quoted on podcasts, quoted in books, quoted by other speakers. And to answer your question, growing up, my number one role model was Tupac Shakur, the rapper.
Tupac.
And the reason why I said that, because you know, at the latter stage, at university, that's when I first started listening to him. I was impressed by his work effort. In 9 months on his record label, he recorded more than 700 tunes. Many rappers out now that's been around for 20 years haven't even done 100 tunes. His work ethic was second to none. He had this discipline, this focus that was still now with references 25 years after his death. So to answer your question, my role model growing up was Tupac. And as I said, I didn't want to quote anyone. That's my distinction, because my message is cutting edge distinction. So if I'm going to be talking about distinction, I can't be now quoting Steve Jobs or Michael Jordan or Tupac himself, you know, in that sense. So, you know, let me not quote anyone, but people will be going to quote me. Why? Because my words are fresh, my words are fertile, and my words are forward thinking.
No, it's quite interesting. Another thing that somebody told me when we were speaking, and when I told him that you're coming on my show, and he said, well, ask him if he has ever thought of going to prisons and talking to prisoners. They need a lot of that. They need a lot of motivation. They need a lot of people like him. And I think, what else was he saying? Not sportsmen. He was talking about something else as well. He said, look, he's the sort of person who could easily pass a good word, not just to those in prison, when he come out of prison, to change their lives, because somewhere along the way, you can mirror your life to their lives when you were younger. With what was going on in Hackney at the time, you know, before you change everything. So he was saying, look, ask him if he has ever had that opportunity to do that. If he hasn't, can he do it as well in future?
Yeah, and to answer the question, I've done it on a number of occasions.
You've gone to prison?
Yeah, I've gone to youth prisons and adult prisons, and it was remarkable. It was humbling, because for them, they're seeing a black man that looks like them, that can talk like them at their level. But like, wow, he changed his life. He's written books. He's spoken around the world. So I've done that. But one thing about entering prisons, even if you ain't been in prison yourself before, there's so much red tape. There's a lot of red tape, and over the last 5-7 years, the prison system has changed a lot. So it's been there's been a lot of redundancies and a lot of red tape and bureaucracy. So it's maybe when I first started, it was pretty easy. I've been to like maybe 4 or 5 different prisons to speak. Tried to partner with organisations. But yeah, I've been in there.
You've been there?
Yeah. And giving out free books, etc.
What did you find in terms of, the people who are there? Is there some kind of forthcoming to listen, to change their lives or anything? Is there something there that's forthcoming? Or sometimes maybe you could be there talking to them, and some of them look at you as if you're from another planet.
No, they endorse me, they respect me, they recognize me, but some of them, if not all of them, are criminals. Let's not get around the bush. You know, it's not like I'm going to a nursery. These are criminals. Some are hardened criminals. Some are deep in the streets where they're so.
It's difficult to get them out. Get it out of their system.
And Steve, it's not my job to go in there and change them and say, it's not. You know, some of them are gang members. Some of them were more dangerous than I ever was, and I wasn't even dangerous. So it's not my job is there to give them hope, give them directions, and give them a practical inspiration. And as an adult male in particular, it's down to you what you want to do. It's not, I'm not going to beat you over the head and force you.
How about Africa? Any thought? You go to Nigeria, you've been there, talk to some of them, talk to other African countries, and see, because the kind of setup that you have is very nice in a sense, in a way, but whether the format will be made to fit within the African sector is an issue. I keep going back to that, because I believe my whole mindset is that there is a lot to be done there than here, because here I think there are more and more people here who can motivate others, but over there we have very few people who could do that.
I mean, I'm open for invitations. I'm ready to serve my generation. I'm ready to serve the cities, the countries, and the continent of Africa. It's just now, anyone that's watching this or in your network, invite me. Let's go. Talk is cheap. Distinction is expensive.
Talk is cheap. Distinction is expensive.
Very expensive.
Okay, and the various things that you talk about, I know we have talked about this before, is that, do they select which are the most important ones that are selected? Say, for example, I'm going to invite you to speak on my show, or sorry, not to speak on my among my 18-year-olds or 20-year-olds. What is particularly wanted, or you speak to the Canadians or in Australia, do they pick particular subject and tell you, now we want you to talk about maybe women or something, or we want you to talk about the younger people and what they should expect in future? As you say, there is a lot of futuristic within that. Are you given some kind of timeline? No, not timeline, a plan,
yes.
in a way, and ideas, and on which particular ideas you have to create to bring up? You are given the kind of things that they want you to talk about. Which are those things?
Yeah. So of course, when they ask me to come and speak in an organization or conference, event, etc., they might say to me, okay, Oni, these are our 5 objectives. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4.
Which are the most important ones? Because it gives us a clue onto what exactly goes on.
Being future ready. So how can me as a leader, as an employer, be ready for the future? Communication skills, 110%. I think that's number 1. And more than ever before, the world is changing at an alarming rate. And I think it's also leadership development and leadership distinction. How can I become a better leader, particularly with the growth of AI, particularly as the global village is getting smaller and smaller? So I think being future ready, communication skills, and leadership development and leadership distinction. Those are the 3 main ones.
Now, is there possibility of us getting a clue to, when say, for example, leadership skills, and we get to ABCD of that? I know you don't need to go in details about it, but I have got my viewers here who are thinking, why didn't he talk about, okay, futuristic, what does that mean? What else do you need with the communication? And so what do we need? You need Facebook, you need this. Okay, some of these things are known, but when you get it from a person who's been out there and it's like a cup of tea to him, because he's talking about it almost every day. We need a little bit of that clue inside. Because
you have to pay me. You have to pay me. Money talks. No. I mean, I'll give you an example. So when I run a program about being future ready. Okay. So for example, I will ask the client, the individual, the leader. Okay. Or for example, I'm in a room now with 10 senior leaders. And the question is, I asked them is, how many of you are going to be working on average in the next 10 years? They all raise up their hands. Okay, so in 2025, by 2035, you're all still going to be working. No problem. All right. Number 2 is, you now have to find out, we work together, but mainly it's on you. What are the jobs of the future which are ready for the next 10 years? So when you say, okay, the jobs for the future are going to be A, B, and C, that's number 1. Number 2, what are the skills of the future that I now need to develop? So for example, the top 3 skills
that
of the future.
That will go with those jobs.
100%. So you now begin to take baby steps. It could be informal learning. It could be formal learning. Informal learning is listening to podcasts, going to conferences, LinkedIn groups, etc. Of course, formal learning is qualifications, credited for the qualifications, training, etc. Then you can take baby steps. So by the time you get to 2030, 2035, you've already empowered and equipped to be ready for the future, which has already started. So number 1, what are the jobs of the future? Because there's a massive job shift going. World Economic Forum, they said by 2030, at least 800 million jobs around the world are going to disappear. And there's going to be at least another 100, 200 jobs that are going to
But because of AI, okay?
Because of AI, of course. And whatever disruptions are coming, whether it was COVID that came, whether it's wars or whatever. So now, if you're going to be working for the next 10, 15 plus years, you have to be future ready, future skills, and start applying them now, and then the jobs of the future. So by the time you get to the future, which has already started, you're one up. Remember, Steve, I told you, in 2018, I pivoted because I knew a shift was coming. How did I know? I received revelation. So I then trained myself informally to be in the future. So now I'm in 2025, now I'm in demand to speak, to coach and train. So when I'm talking about the future being future ready, I'm a living example of that. So you now have to be ready. You have to be a hindsight, foresight, and farsight. The next 15 years, the skills and the jobs, informal and formal learning. And we practicalize it. It's not just theory.
Okay, I get that. Money. Money is one of the... I thought you were offering me. No, what I'm saying is money is another area that is very difficult to sort of put into the future, because you can't know, the company may be running and it's earning money and it's saving money, but then something turns up. So much as you prophesize the future, something may come up, and it does that. And most company leaders would want to know, how do we get more money? How do we motivate our people so that they work a lot and we get earn more money? Do you put money in as some kind of this is how you can save? I know you're not an accountant, but this is what you can do, or maybe this is what you can invest in, or this is what you can do. Because other than telling them about the future and other things that motivate them and so on, there is always going to be, money is always going to be there. Do we get to the bank? Do we do this? Do we do that? Do you go into that as well to be part of your training? That, listen, you need $1 million, for example, to manage this company. And out of that million, maybe half of it should go here, or this should go here. Do you go deep into that?
No, because I'm not a financial advisor. So we touch on the surfaces, but for me, the most important currency, one of the most important currencies in any organization is value. The value the staff bring, the value the organization bring. That in turn can, in long term, create a level of profit.
Okay.
So, but when it comes to deep in the money, I'm not a financial advisor. I don't used to say, I'm not going to tell you to invest here or not to invest, etc. But I do speak about value and how that correlates with creating wealth in that sense. But no, I'm not a financial advisor in that sense.
No. How about even the issue of, say, for example, two companies that are doing something similar? Have you ever come across that? They say, look, they're doing clothes, you're doing clothes. Why don't you make the same company? Why don't you do this or that? Do you come across something similar on a similar level?
Not really, no.
Yeah, because I know that's not your area, but it's something that can give them an insight onto if their questions are asked.
Anyway. I mean, I've had clients who've said, okay, for example, they're selling yellow t-shirts and someone else is selling yellow t-shirts. Then we create what I talk about, your brand distinction, the 3 V's of your brand distinction, your vision, your values and your voice, and then how you can stand out in a very busy market in that sense.
Yeah, because those things are extremely important, the 3 visions of your value market. And how does somebody values himself? How do you put that value on yourself? How do you put that value? Because it's like, I'm here now, how do I value myself? Because these are some of the things that people, okay, you put value on yourself, but how do you put value on yourself? So I'm worth 20 million, I'm worth 5 million?
To answer your question, is being consistent. Consistent with your message, consistent with your mandate, and consistent with your mission. If you look at some of the, Nike, Adidas, they wasn't created in in 1955. They were some of them from 1920s. Some of them before the First World War, but they've been consistent with their brand positioning, consistent with their value, and consistent with their customer experience.
Governments have issues as well.
Yes.
And I don't know whether you've had an opportunity to speak to somebody who is a minister, for example, in the government, or who is an army commander somewhere, or who is, anybody, like members of parliament here sometimes, or even those within authorities anyway, as far as government is concerned. And they've got a policy that they have to follow, which is a government policy. But at the same time, they have the value of which they have, of which they say, look, much as I'm here, but this is the policy that the government is trying to enforce. What do they do in terms of, say, I might not be interested, I might not like the government policy. Should I just resign and leave the post because it's affecting my kind of religious belief, my kind of something that, the political correctness of idea that is really affecting most of the companies, most of the people. You look at it, but you've been trained, like you said, you've got to value yourself and at the same time look at others. But you're in a position whereby you are also being told that this is the policy that has to be we go by. Have you ever come across such an issue where someone is valuing, where somebody's value and the policies of the government, and you're talking to somebody who are the policy makers, and you're telling them, hey, this is how things are, and they're telling you, no, we have a value, we have a government structure here that we have to follow, and they're caught in the middle. They want to follow you in what you're saying, but at the same time, the political correctness is preventing them from doing their job.
I've never experienced that personally, but I mean, I've heard about it. I've heard certain stories, and it comes down to that person's discretion and their self-worth. Because once you join any kind of government, in theory, you sold yourself out to the government. You know, I was watching a documentary about, about the FBI and how when they recruit people from the FBI, it's literally FBI first, FBI second, FBI third. We're representing our country, full stop. Do you understand? And of course you still, and once you get to that deep level, it takes, I'm gonna say you sell your soul, but it takes away an essence of your soul. So certain things you may disagree with, if it's for the better of the country, or you believe it's better for the country, or they think it's the better for the country, you have to do it. Some people have walked away. Some people have resigned, and it's down to each discretion. But me personally, I haven't met anyone at that level yet, and I'm very certain this is the year that I'll be working closely with governments around the world, advising them, etc.
Over the years, with the places you've been to, Canada, Saudi Arabia, all these countries.
I haven't been to Saudi Arabia yet, but I've worked with Saudi.
The areas where you've been.
Yes.
Would you stand there and say, would you stand up and say, okay, I think the best country now is Canada. I think England. I think, so that where most of the policies, where most of the things that you've talked are properly understood and are properly followed, and people are keen on them and all that. Which of all these countries, is there any that can stand out?
Looking from afar, from outside in, two places on earth, I think, and in one region that's going to, I always say it's going to be the center of the world. Saudi Arabia, the Middle East, and Dubai. That's where many people are now, particularly from the UK. They said tens of thousands of people are now migrating and leaving Europe, the UK, to head to Dubai, the Middle East. It's interesting, isn't it? 20 years ago, the image we had of the Middle East, where there were savages, they would come and blow you up, all that nonsense propaganda. But now we're realizing that's in the 1920s, the American gold rush, everyone went to California for gold. Everyone went there. Now everyone's gone to the Middle East because, Saudi Arabia, UAE in particular, Dubai, for the fact that this is the new world, the capital of the world. So those are the two places that I've seen outside in, and I can't really wait to get there, enjoy, create wealth, make impact, and be a global citizen in that sense. So definitely the Middle East, Saudi, and I've worked with a lot of Saudi people, and I tell you, the way they promote their country is second to none, because they've got great leadership. A leader that listens to the people, but still understands democracy, that still understands the authoritative side of leadership. So I would say Saudi, Dubai, UAE.
Okay. Now, we are coming towards the end of the program, and I'm looking at how you see the future of Africa, for example, because my focus has always been on the continent, and I don't make any as an African. I always look at say, look, what is I have to put Africa first, as you say.
Of course.
Okay, I could put myself first, but Africa comes first as well. The future of Africa, in terms of the modern technology, information, as you were, AI, the people themselves, the youth, the young generation that we have, which is nearly 80%. And how do you see it, from what you read about, from what you've been to see and so on? How do you see its future, for example, as a futuristic person, how do you see its future and where it's heading at the moment?
In 2015, I went to the LSE African Summit. And I remember I was sitting down on a panel, and it was very heavy data based, and I was listening to it, and I looked around the audience and thinking, you're talking data heavy, and the audience are 25, 30-year-olds, and they're not interested in that. And then light came, and I said I don't like calling them quotes, I said two insights, timeless insights, and I'll share with you now to answer the question. Number one, where do I see Africa going? Number one, Africa is crying out for entrepreneurial leaders and for leaders that are entrepreneurial.
Could you repeat that?
Africa is crying out for entrepreneurial leaders and for leaders that are entrepreneurial. So we're going to see a new generation of leaders that are not pastors or imams or governors or prime ministers or presidents, but they're leaders, entrepreneurial leaders who are selfless, who are visionary, who are disruptive.
Like the Nigerian guy, what's his name? The oil.
There's many, yeah.
Yeah, no, the outstanding one, who's one of the richest men in Africa now. Dangote.
Dangote, yeah, but I mean, a new generation that are not going to be, you know, Dangote is a great man, the multi-billionaire, the richest man, but we're talking about on another level, we're talking about young people. And it's not just about money, it's actually about value. It's about cross-border collaboration, it's about cross-border impact, it's about cross-border, because, I mean, I don't think Dangote's got impact in South Africa, or Mozambique, or Kenya, or Ethiopia that I know of in that sense. So Africa is crying out for entrepreneurial leaders and for leaders who are entrepreneurial. And again, in 2015, I said that Africa was once called the dark continent. Yeah. But in this era of creative distinction, Africa will become the light of the world. Africa was once called the dark continent. But in this era of creative distinction,
the 21st century,
Africa will become the light of the world. I didn't say that Africa is going to have 24-hour electricity and light. They will become the light of the world. And what is light? Is influence, is impact and inspiration. And where that's coming from? The 80% of the young people. So for me, the two centers of the world per se, where there's young people, will be Saudi and will be Africa as a continent. Wow. Why? Because they've got young people. And the race will be on now. Not America. The American dream is turned, excuse me, the American dream is turned into an American nightmare. Not Europe. They've got an aging population and no natural resources. So it's going to be Saudi and it's going to be Africa as a continent. The race is on.
That's very interesting. I just want to say thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for coming on the show and telling us all about it. And I hope everybody has listened and everybody you take something from here so that it will help you in the future. I just want to say thank you for viewing us, and I hope we'll be together again for another edition of Africa Speaks next week. Thank you, and may God bless you all.
Thank you.
It was quite interesting.
Thank you.